What's going on, everybody? This is Katie's, and I just wanted to make a really quick video to explain how the co-op system works in Nioh 2, because that was a really anticipated feature that I was looking forward to. I know, to my understanding, co-op was in the first game a little bit. I didn't play the first Nioh too much, but it was really only the traditional Dark Souls system of like summoning another player, or I don't think there's invasions. I know there's PvP, but I don't think there are invasions. But in Nioh 2, if it was like that before, it's been completely changed. You can absolutely 100% fully co-op this game with up to 3 different people, and that's what I've been doing with a friend of mine for these past couple days. So real quick, I'm just gonna, no bullshit, run down exactly what you need to do to play this game and co-op with a friend. So what you'll do, right when you start the game for the first time, you'll be right at the overworld map. Now this is the second overworld you'll get to, but you don't have to be at this point. You can do this at any time. Go to starting point, you want to look for Torii Gate. This was the option in the previous game where you had some online modes, but it's been reworked a little bit. You'll want to hit this. So random encounters, I'm not too familiar with that. I know there is a system in place where you can just join anybody's room. You don't have to have friends already on this game specifically to play with. It seems to be, and I haven't tried this yet, but you can queue up with anybody. Because what you want to look for is expeditions, and for here, you can do quick match and join with anybody you want to. But what you want to do if you have a friend that you're playing this game with is go to custom match. So you'll hit that, and then one person will create the room, and another person will search for your room. So in this case, we'll create the room. You want to have with or without conditions, whether or not you want to just play one mission, or if you want to... I've been joining my friend's room. I'm pretty sure he's on without conditions. Yeah, specify before searching. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So without conditions, but down here, you want to make sure both of these are set to private slot. And then for private slot conditions, you want to have it on friends. Now, what you can do also is set it to a secret word. So if, you wanted to play with some subscribers or some patrons and you had like a password you can do, you can type something in here and have matchmaking completely locked just to that word. And so from here, you can create the room. And once that gets done, you can choose what mission you want to play, depending on what starting map you want to go to. Let's see, you can see once other players join, you can look at that here. You can start, click on starting point if you want to mess with these options, and then as well as change these settings at any time. You don't have to make a new room to change the policy on slots. You can also allow for drop-in mid-mission. Now there are some very key differences to how the game functions when you're playing in co-op with other people, but I'll go over that completely in just a few seconds. But for now, I want to show... I'm about to play with my friend here, so I'll show going into his lobby. Alright, so my buddy's got a room set up. I'm going to go ahead and join him. I want to do expeditions, custom match, search, and then with condition, we'll do without conditions, and then you want to look for friends, and you'll do search for a friend. And at this point, any friend you have with a room made will show up here. I'm going to censor that name because it's one of the most vile things I've ever seen, but this is my friend here. So we'll click on that. And I'll have to switch over to party chat with him, which unfortunately cuts off all game audio to the recording. But that's really all you have to do. And you saw before how when you're in the room, you can still choose a mission or go to the starting point, which, at any time, you can just pause and still have full access of your menu, as well as hit starting point and use the shrine and the blacksmith. You don't have to leave the room every single time you want to change about your character. But only the leader can choose the mission and have control of your lobby settings. But you can also look at the information of your friend as well. Which, damn girl. So that's the essentials as far as finding a game with your buddy. And I want to make it very clear, beating a mission in this fashion will further progress for your character. It's not going to be where just the host advances. All players are going to move over to mission as well. It's not like Dark Souls where someone has to join your world and then they'll have to go back to their world and still beat the boss, which is so great. There's no extra headache involved. So if you and a couple buddies bought Nioh 2, you want to start co-op, this is the exact way to get that done. So now I'm going to get into some really key differences as far as playing the game solo versus playing with friends. We'll be switching to a post-recorded for that, so here we go. So I'm now realizing in post-editing that this dude's name is flying everywhere over the screen. It's above his name, it's to the side. I'm sorry, dude. I tried. That one little menu, it was good, but no, I'm not censoring all that. I'm sorry. Life is about living with your mistakes, okay? Anyways. So, onto the actual playing the game in co-op with a buddy in Nioh 2. Of course, you've got the standard, more enemies are added to the level. I've played a little bit in co-op so far. I mean, I've played a little bit in single player so far, compared to, you know, about the 20 hours I played in co-op. You can kind of notice a little bit of difference as far as enemies, but it feels like a good amount of enemies for co-op. It's been a pretty decent challenge so far, albeit, you know, obviously a lot easier than just playing it by yourself. Another thing that I think a lot of people are wondering is the loot situation. Everybody has their own loot. You don't have to worry about someone else scooping up all your items and weapons, but at the same time, loot can be completely different for every player. So, for example, if there's like a certain item you've been wanting and your buddy picks it up, there's no item trading, there's no like, you know, let me drop this weapon, you pick it up off the floor. So it's a little disappointing in that regard, but you just have to keep grinding for what you want. It's you know, it's not a huge deal. But the big change, the really big change has to do with the way that shrines work in this game. So you can still use shrines anytime. You can you could level up, check your ninjutsu, omyo magic and all that, but they only recover you the first time that you visit them. They still refill your health, replenish all your elixirs and ninjutsu, but this only happens the first time that you rest at a shrine. So when you see one or start the level, it kind of becomes this game of, you know, do I need to use this right now? Should I wait until I get damaged a little bit and then come back and use it? Sort of how the mentality is if you see like a hot spring, for example. So that definitely makes shrines a lot harder to use, but one thing to kind of counteract this is that using a shrine will no longer revive enemies. Enemies just do not respawn in this mode. So, you know, if one of your buddies is halfway across the map and you want to rest, it's not gonna pop up 20 enemies around him, which that will sound like quite a leniency to take for co-op, and it might sound kind of easy, but there's one big thing to keep in mind, that if you die, if you game over in co-op, you start the entire mission over again. It doesn't matter what mid-bosses you've killed or what shrines you've activated. If you fail a mission, that's it, back to square one. The cool thing is that character progression still persists, like any items that you've picked up or if you've leveled up at all, none of that's going to be unchanged. So it could be good for like farming, you know, chests will reset as well, so you can hit a couple spots real quick, do some runs. And of course there are no bloodstains in co-op because everything resets when you die. On the topic of bloodstains, let's talk about the giant blue bar that you've probably noticed. So that bar is the, oh shit, I forget the proper name for it, I just call it the co-op bar. So when the co-op bar reaches 0, that's when you fail a mission, when that gets fully depleted. But this doesn't necessarily mean it's game over when both of you die, because when one of the players dies, a chunk of that bar is going to turn yellow, and that player can either self-revive themselves by spending that yellow chunk, or they can wait for the other player to come and revive them. Now that yellow portion is going to continue to drain until you get revived by somebody else, or if it drains completely, you're just going to revive there on the spot, you know, same difference. So that gauge is going to drop every time somebody dies, and if that gauge hits 0, that's when the game ends. Because there have been a couple times where me and my buddy have been, you know, hit by an ambush, both of us get one shot or some shit like that, but both of us were at full co-op bar. We share a co-op bar, by the way, and you could just spend that and both res on the spot. Albeit that's a huge loss to lose that much bar, but the real danger is that bar hitting 0, and so you might be asking how to fill it back up. And that can be kind of hard to do because that doesn't refill from killing enemies, it doesn't refill from resting at shrines. The only way to refill the gauge is by clearing the dark areas, which are the new yokai controlled areas of these levels that have like a certain yokai that you kill and it cleanses the entire area. So the way to restore that bar is through progress. So what we've kind of done is like, you know, through a level, you learn the route. The level design has been great, by the way, as far as like non-linearity. For example, like, you know, you'll walk by and see a dark realm, but it's not necessarily the critical path. Like, it's avoidable if you want to. So you can progress in the level, and then, oh man, my bar is getting kind of low. Let's go back and knock out this dark realm real quick, and then refill our gauge up a little bit. So you got to keep that in mind. Overall, I'm not gonna lie, as someone who's played every Souls game, played a decent chunk of Nioh 1, it's definitely gonna be easier than just playing it by yourself, but they've kind of retooled it in a really interesting ways where it's still a lot of fun to play, and we've died a surprising amount of times, all things considered, so I still think it's enjoyable, and it's a really great way to play a Souls-like game with a friend. It's probably the best co-op system I've seen in a Souls-like game yet. Certainly better than the summon sign system in the other Dark Souls games. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video, everybody. I hope you learned something. I hope this video inspires you to play co-op Nioh 2 with some friends, because it's a lot of fun. If I missed anything, if you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll try to get back to it. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching.